You are listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, don't forget to add us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast. All right, guys, welcome to another week of nonsense. It is episode 73, and this week is a little bit special. And Christine will go more into that, but before we go into that, she's going to tell us about our new nutrition in the news.
Right. So I stumbled upon this article, and I think it's very interesting. It's basically called Raw Dog Food Contains Drug-Resistant Bacteria. And I don't know if it's just because we're in the middle of a pandemic right now, but knowing that there is drug-resistant bacteria in, it's actually frozen raw dog food, it's just a little bit scary thinking about how fragile our society is and how quickly things can crumble. Not to, be overly dramatic or anything. But basically, we'll obviously attach the article in the show notes, but here's kind of the main points. So a study suggests that frozen raw dog food contains bacteria that are capable of resisting mainstream antibiotics. So this poses a risk of the transmission of these antibiotic-resistant bacteria from dogs to humans, constituting an international public health risk. So just keep adding them to the list. According to a 2019 study in the Journal of Small Animal Practice, raw dog food diets for pets have grown in popularity over recent years. We know that. This is primarily due to what people perceive as health benefits of animals consuming a more natural diet and suspicion at processed pet foods. And this study notes that there is little evidence to support the health benefits that such a diet people often suggest. So people are switching over to this diet for their dogs and potentially exposing us to this antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So when the authors looked at the frozen samples in more detail, they found that all of the samples that they studied, they all carried bacteria that are resistant to many antibiotics, including standard antibiotics that healthcare professionals prescribe regularly. In contrast, drug-resistant bacteria contaminated very few samples of the wet or dry dog food.
That's so weird. Where did you find this? Where did you find this article?
It was from
Medical News
Today.
What a time to live in.
I know, right? What a time to be alive. But
oh my gosh.
Just keep adding all the things that could wipe us out,
Yeah.
Add it to the list. Did you hear about the wasps?
What do you mean? What's with the wasp?
Starting today, there's been a lot of memes on social media that there's a new wasp that could apparently wipe us out. It's traveling from South America, I believe. You'll start to see it. Don't worry.
I don't want to see a wasp.
No, you'll start to see like the things on Instagram and stuff. So
gosh.
You'll know what I'm talking about in a couple days.
So, okay. Well, that's interesting. So, actually, that's definitely interesting, especially if you do own an animal, which I happen to own too.
Right.
So if there's interruptions actually right now, it's because of them. But
as always.
Right. So interesting. So with that being said, let's kind of move on to our updates. Southeast Texas was still increasing, even though they decided to open it. They decided to open it on this past Friday, which they say this past Friday, but it's been open for a while. Because I've been seeing the roads have been way busier the past couple of weeks, or past week and a half, even before they were even talking about opening it. They opened up tanning salons. Why? I don't know. Like,
that's extremely non-essential.
No, it's not. I mean, everyone's arguing, well, UV rays kill bacteria. I'm like, well, you still have your sweaty butt on the machine, and they can only wipe it as well. Like, do you know what I'm saying? They can only wipe it as much.
Right, right.
So I don't know. And then we have 634 cases, which is up from last week. Last week was around 500 something cases. And then we have 28 deaths this week, which is, I guess, almost 7 up from last week. So still no mask priority or anything. So we're fucked.
Oh
So
my gosh. Don't say that.
that's how I feel right now. And that's why I refuse to go out in public right now. I mean, people have been wanting to hang out, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna stay home
Well,
just because.
you do come into contact with a lot of people because you're
Yeah,
still working.
I'm still working, but
Hmm.
like as much as I want to see people that aren't my coworkers,
Right. Right, absolutely.
but it just I'd rather not take the risk.
Right. We all, shouldn't, but, especially those that do still have to go to work because you come in contact with a lot of people, and especially your population, there's super high risk. So if you go out la-di-da having a good time and transmit it to all of them, it's not helping the situation.
Exactly. And I think one of the coworkers actually just got tested because she got sick on the treatment floor. So,
Mm. Yeah.
well, I mean,
We'll, we'll
we'll
see.
get answers back hopefully soon, but apparently these tests can take up to 10 days out, which
For
is a long
yeah,
time.
for the very accurate one, it can take a very long time. So just a couple updates here in San Diego. Our active cases are up to 3,711, and our total death count is 134 deaths. And as of May 1st, wearing a face covering or mask in public is 100% required. Um, Individual stores had been implementing that a while ago, like maybe last week of April. Like if you didn't have a mask on, they wouldn't let you in the grocery store. But now it's like they want you wearing a mask if you're like out walking your dog, or it's ridiculous. Like you're not really going to come into contact walking your dog. Like you can easily cross the street, but whatevs. We are closed indefinitely as of right now. We have no date in the future of when we're planning to open up, and despite that being extremely frustrating, I'm okay with it. I'd rather us be in this situation than how Texas is right now. Sorry, but
I mean, it's not my fault
yeah,
nor yours. So,
I'm glad we're taking more measures just to make sure it doesn't um, get too crazy.
right.
From what I hear, our hospitals seem to be better. Um, and I have heard from those that do work in the hospitals that it's just like a little bit more calm. We don't have many people in the hospitals. It wasn't like it was in like mid-March and early April when things were like kind of shit hit the fan a little bit. But it has calmed down quite a lot. But we're still staying in lockdown, social distancing, shelter in place, just to make sure, because we're still getting new cases, which is kind of odd to me. I'm like, okay, if we've been in like our 7th week of shelter in place, there really shouldn't be that many new cases if people truly are not transmitting it to one another, because it takes about 2 weeks to see symptoms. We're in week 7 of this. How is it still, how are we still getting new cases?
Right.
As many as
Actually,
we are.
yeah. Actually, just a point that I wanted to bring up here. They wanted to open up restaurants here too. That was one case that was brought up,
Hmm.
but they only want 25% occupancy of retail stores and restaurants, which
Hmm.
it's fine in theory, but a lot of restaurants are like, well, what's the point of opening up? That's not even enough money to sustain. So a lot
Right,
of
to
them are
cover
doing take
costs. Yeah.
right, and to so now they're just doing takeout or curbside orders still. So
Right. Right. Which I'm sure is gonna, I mean, that's the case here. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so now we will dive into the bulk of the episode. A couple episodes back, we mentioned something about the Shaw Academy, and I mentioned that I was going to enroll in their free enrollment and take one of their classes just to kind of see what sort of curriculum they're providing. And basically, they had been marketing on Facebook, on Instagram, all over the internet about, become a certified blah, blah, blah in nutrition, health, fitness, weight loss, all this stuff, and you could take it for free. So it's just one of these online e-certification things that they made it for free in the midst of the pandemic so that people could, I don't know, progress their career and whatnot.
I mean, I feel like it's been around for a while,
Mhm.
but the ads have been nonstop ever since this pandemic went down.
Yeah, they kicked it into overdrive, 100%. So again, Shaw Academy is just one of the many online nutrition certification thingy-mabobs that you can take. And basically, it's an online learning platform where you can register. It appears to be $49.95 per month, and you can basically take as many courses as you'd like. I signed up when it was free, so I got access for a month for free. But there's also like a wide variety of topics you can take. Like some of the other topics are beauty, music, marketing, graphic design, photography, things of that nature. So it's a wide variety of curriculum. It's not just nutrition. So I took the fitness and weight loss module because I felt like that's the area I had the most knowledge in, so I could really pick apart what was good material, what was bad material, and just make a better judgment on it. So some of the weekly topics were what is fitness, all about cardio, all about weight loss, all about muscle, and then like injury prevention and recovery. So pretty surface level stuff, but I do want to mention it was a 4-week program. You signed up and you took an hour class twice a week. So you're basically getting 8 hours of instruction. That's not very much. That's how much you would study for a class for 1 week at a university, and then you would take a 16-week course. So it's really not comparable to that, but we'll dive into that a little bit deeper. So all in all, the material was like okay. Like that's the best adjective I can describe it. It was just okay. It was super basic and just super surface level. I mean, that's all you can really get into in 8 hours is just kind of like the big picture idea of things. For the most part, the material was like non-offensive and didn't cross any lines. And what I mean by non-offensive is they didn't make these like crazy bold claims that sounded like too good to be true, if that makes sense. It was very surface level, generally pretty safe, pretty informative, but again, super surface level, not enough to really call yourself a professional in the field and charge someone for your services. And that's where we don't like these programs.
Right. So it's kind of like dipping your toes in the water of nutrition for a couple of seconds kind of
I
deal.
would call it like one level above watching just a random person on YouTube. Like,
That's not saying much.
it's not. It's not. Like, it coming from someone who, I went to school for this, I'm getting my master's in this. I'm definitely not, the master at nutrition or anything, but I'm pretty well educated in it. And coming from my perspective, it was just very basic, and that's okay. It's okay for someone who doesn't know anything about nutrition and wants to learn from a decently credible source versus just randomly searching on the internet. Because as we know, you can get a lot of crap on the internet, a lot of really offensive material that can get you into trouble. Nothing they said would get you into trouble, but it doesn't make you qualified to charge somebody else for your services after taking this course. Like, absolutely not. Um, there were a few questionable things that they said, and like I took notes on every course. So they did show some before and afters of clients that this instructor had, saying that you can get these results from taking this course and teaching this guy's method. I have a problem with that because not the same thing works for everybody. Yes, the information was generally pretty safe, but you I can't tell you one time in a college course when they were like, you can look like me if you listen to my nutrition information. Like it kind of was a sales pitch. You know, they emphasized results, 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 results all the time. And just reminds me of like Herbalife, like you want results like this, do what I say. So they did emphasize eating in a calorie deficit, less processed food, regular exercise. They really emphasized doing high intensity interval training and more of a mild strength training. Again, not overly offensive, you know, it's pretty general advice, but it's not appropriate for everyone. You know, what if someone was watching this who just suffered a heart attack? They should not be doing high intensity interval training right out of the gate. And they didn't give any disclaimers like that. So that's kind of where I had a little bit of a problem, because when you go to school for this, they teach you about contraindications and when it's appropriate, when it's not, because the same thing is not appropriate for everyone. They never even really said, you know, this is appropriate for the general population. They didn't give any contraindications. And that's where I have a problem, because it's almost enforcing like, you know, this is the way to do things and this is the only way to do things. If you don't do things this way, you're wrong. Like it just, they didn't give any alternatives. They also taught the max heart rate as 220 minus your age. We know how outdated this is, and they didn't mention that any other formulas exist. So again, that's going back to the problem of, yes, it's a general rule of thumb, but they didn't mention the alternatives either. They also mentioned like the rating of perceived exertion, which I like, just rating how you feel while doing exercise, which is a good thing as well. They did talk about proper like running form, cycling form, and rowing technique. It's helpful, but that's more scope of practice for a personal trainer. Like, why was it in a nutrition course?
That's so random. What?
It was super random. I'm like, that again, it's helpful to know, but that's scope of practice for a personal trainer, not for someone giving you a diet to help you lose weight. Again, helpful information for the individual to know, but not to sell services for. So kind of odd. They also use the general rule of thumb saying that if you eat an extra 500 calories per day, you will gain 10 pounds in a year. Again, very general advice. It's even debatable if that 3,500 calories equals a pound thing is accurate. It's not accurate, but it's just they made these statements that they didn't give the other side of it either.
Right. So it's like a blanket statement where it's like, well, we just put it out there. So
Right.
I mean, it's out there in other parts of the world, so it can't come back on us.
Exactly. So it just kind of like, yes, if you do eat more calories than you burn, you'll gain weight. We know that, but they also didn't mention like, yes, but if you eat more calories, but you also, you know, build more lean mass, you won't gain 10 pounds in a year. So they didn't give the alternative side to their statements either. And that's part of the problem with a lot of things on social media these days. They do discuss how not all calories are created equal, which is very good. They compared an apple to soda. And again, this is a very basic comparison, you know, the sugar in apple versus the sugar in soda. You know, we know that apples have fiber, micronutrients, things like that, more satiety, whereas soda is just sugar. And they called soda poison full with sugar. They literally called it poison. Soda's not poison.
No.
Soda's not poison. Like, it's not, we're not going to recommend you drink it, but if you like it, whatever, go for it. So they definitely attacked soda pretty heavy in here. Again, some good perspectives, but a little bit extreme. They do discuss energy balance, saying that if you are eating in excess every day, you're gaining fat every day. Yes and no. You could be gaining muscle too. It just depends what your activity is. You could also not be overeating, but still gaining weight due to a medical condition or medication, but they didn't mention that. They just said if you're overeating, you're gaining fat, which is not true. It's it's just a big blanket statement, but again, they don't teach you how to look at it a little bit more critically and think about some of the other things that could be contributing to weight loss and what food and energy balance actually really means at the end of the day. They did discuss the aerobic, anaerobic, and then the ATP PC systems. Pretty decent overview, but they only discussed it for about 5 to 10 minutes. I remember this taking about 3 to 4 weeks in school. So I don't know how like a newbie would have comprehended all of that. Like for me, it was like, oh, quick 5-minute refresher. And it was decent. It was decent. Like they didn't do a horrible job at that, but we're also not personal. This course was not for personal training. So
I feel like a lot of nutrition courses are always teach by like through a fitness professional perspective rather than just a regular nutrition perspective anyways.
yeah, this guy in his introduction like owned his own, I believe he was a personal trainer in the gym and then he just helped people lose fat and build muscle.
That's what
Um,
irritates me. People always put two and two, like they, if you do fitness, they assume you also do nutrition when that's
Completely
not
different
always the
industries.
case.
No,
Right.
completely different industry. And a lot of people don't know that, you know, going to school for it. I didn't know that until a couple years in. And I just keep learning more and more and more as I'm in this field more, but they're completely different industries. Um, then they made some like other bold statements that they didn't source it or anything. They said that 90% of the bodybuilding community is on steroids. I'm just like, where did you get that
What?
number from? Like, it was just odd. And I do understand why they tried to find a statistic for that, because they were trying to say, you know, you shouldn't be afraid of strength training because you're not going to get like that naturally, which is pretty true. You know, bodybuilders devote their entire lives, every waking moment and every sleeping moment of their day, to build the most amount of muscle possible. You know, every decision they make in their life is to build muscle. The rest of us are not going to just like randomly stumble upon all of this muscle. Like, oh my gosh, how did this happen? It just doesn't
Oh,
work.
wow. Whoa.
Yeah. And then they said, you know, they took like a very muscular person and claimed that only 1% of the population can develop that type of conditioning naturally. So again, I don't know where they got that statistic from, but they were only making these comparisons to kind of encourage people, you know, don't be afraid of strength training because you're not going to get too big on accident, which I appreciate the idea behind it because you're not going to get big, but I don't like these statistics they provided because they just seem a little extreme.
Right.
Um, and then they claim it will take about 6 to 9 months to really see true muscle growth. Yes, it does take time, but if you start strength training, you know, if you've never lifted a weight in your life, you're going to see things develop quicker. If you've been weight training for 10 years, it's going to take longer. So they didn't really explain that either. So some hits, some misses. Again, just complete the context was lacking sometimes, but what can you expect when you're in a 4-week course? Um, then there was some good points that they make. Like, so these were some of the things that I really liked they talked about. They did say that fitness is about having the best body that you can for the life that you are living right now. And I did like that. You know, they explained, you know, it's not a one size fits all thing. You just want to have like, and they talked about body as more of like what your body can do versus what it looks like, which was nice. You know, they didn't take the aesthetic part into it. They talked about, you know, being able to run, jump, play with your kids and, you know, grocery shop and lift heavy, you know, things if you have to. Like they talked about fitness and having the best body in terms of that type of stuff, you know, not getting tired when you're walking around the zoo with your family, things like that. I also like that they didn't really overemphasize the gym. They actually didn't push it at all. They talked about things you can just do at home, hit training that you can do at home, how to write little hit programs that you can do twice a day for 10 minutes each. And I did like that because a lot of people think they have to go to a gym to lose weight and build muscle, and that's not 100% true all the time. So I like that they didn't overemphasize it too much, They do emphasize small and consistent changes and how to fit it into your life, which I think is really great. You know, they talked about habit change a little bit, and we do know that that is what most people struggle with most. It's not education, it's implementing it into your life consistently. They discussed the problem with crash diets, which I think was great. Crash diets tend to result in muscle and fat loss. When you lose that muscle mass, it's hard to maintain your weight loss. And they also talked about the issues with nutrient deficiencies in crash diets. They say that about a 300 to 500 calorie deficit is typically appropriate. And that's, again, it's a general rule of thumb and it's a good place to start for most people, but it depends. They emphasize that training shouldn't really change too much while you're dieting, and I think that's an important point to make as well. Some people think when they're dieting they have to start doing a ton of cardio. Not really true. They discuss the muscle to fat ratio and about your shape, not really your weight, which I think was an important point. Um, Losing weight will typically just make your current shape smaller, where most people want more of a shape. You know, they might want a smaller waist, stronger legs, bigger shoulders, you know, but weight loss doesn't give you that result. You actually have to increase your muscle ratio to fat. So I like that they gave comparisons for that, that it's not about the weight. We've said that many times. It's not a new concept anymore. They also discuss BMI, body fat, and the other anthropometric measurements. Again, pretty basic. We all kind of know this stuff by now. It's not about BMI and weight. Body fat percentage, you know, waist to hip ratios are much better indicators of overall health, and they do bring that up. But they talked about it for so long. Like, I got so bored. Like, but whatever. And I really like that they really emphasize strength training for everybody. But they also didn't talk about how strength training looks different for an older versus a younger person, which is a problem. So again, hits and misses, hits and misses. They're just assuming that their population is like, I don't know, under 35 or something. But, you know,
Basically.
someone under 35 could have physical limits that they can't do certain strength training. And they just didn't talk about those things. There's critical thinking was lacking a little bit. So, what was the learning experience like in general? So, they market it as like an interactive learning experience. So, you log on and you can chat with your peers. I didn't see any peers. And they encourage you to interact with this bot. And they really want you to, like, if you have a question, type it in the chat box and the bot will reply to you. And they want you to provide feedback on the answer the bot gave. If you're asking a question, you don't know the answer. How could you rate the answer if you don't know the answer? You get what I'm saying? Okay. Like, it was that just, I get why they want feedback because they're trying to make their system better. But if I'm a student and I have a question and the bot answers me and they ask you to rate the answer, but I don't know the answer, how can I give a proper rating? It was odd. One classmate did ask a question in the chat form during one of the presentations, and I didn't see any response, like, at all for the entire class. I don't know if, like, the bot didn't know where to find the answer. It was weird. And then it seems to be like a European company. Um, when I was signing up, they kept telling me that I could achieve what's called a level 5 cert, and they kept telling me that a level 5 cert is entry level into the industry. I also want to emphasize you don't get level 5 cert in 4 weeks, but it also wasn't clear how many courses or months it would take to get to level 5 cert. Also, here in the States, there's no such thing as level 5 cert in the fitness.
No.
So,
This certification is like literally slowly trying to reel you into the program.
Right. It means if I didn't know anything about the industry and I'm, you know, interested in getting into the industry, they pretty much scammed me because they're telling me, I can get this certification and that is considered entry level into the industry. And that certification doesn't exist here.
Nope.
So
Nope.
fact that they're advertising it in the state in Europe, I don't know. We can't speak on that. But here in the States, they'll laugh at you if you say like, "Oh, I'm a level 5 cert." Like it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. So that is very frustrating that it's being marketed here in the States when that certification doesn't really get you anything. Um, you also log on and it is like a pre-recorded lecture, even though they tell you they want you to attend class. It was just kind of odd. And you don't know if like how many classmates are viewing it with you or if people are even there with you. You don't know who your classmates are at all. So the interesting thing about the pre-recorded like lectures, so you sign up for a time slot. So I signed up to view my class on like Tuesdays and Thursdays from 12 to 1 or something like that. And if you miss a class or like my internet was being really spotty one day, I was like, oh, I can just go back and watch it later. I can watch the parts that my internet was freezing up on. When I went to go back to like rewatch it, I found out that you have to have what's called the toolkit. So the toolkit costs $39.95. So in addition to, I signed up for free when they had their free enrollment. You pay $49.95 per month to just be inside the Shaw Academy. And then you have to buy the toolkit. And I don't really know what else comes in the toolkit besides being able to rewatch the lectures. And then there's also the certificate that you need to purchase. So the monthly subscription, the toolkit, and then the certificate is $39.95 in order to prove that you actually completed the week. And if you don't have the certificate, you can't prove that you actually completed your curriculum.
So
So
it's like a whole bunch of little things just keep adding up.
and it wasn't clear if you needed the certificate and the toolkit like a one-time payment or if you needed to buy it each week. There was also like quizzes that you only had access to if you paid. So it was just odd. Like if I wasn't sitting there waiting for my class to start, that was it. And also I don't even get to prove that I completed this course because I'm not going to pay the $39.95. It was just odd. So very frustrating that I wasn't able to watch the recordings again. They also text you and email you 24 hours before and 1 hour before your class starts. And then they'll text you or email you a link to join. I was having a really hard time like logging on to the website and joining my class from the website. So I would just wait for the email link to come so I could click on the email link and like join now. But the last like week or so, it was sending me the wrong times, which was really confusing because I would think once they knew your time slot, you would just get the automatic emails and whatnot. But I was supposed to go in at 12 and I was getting emails at 3 saying like your class has started. I'm like, well, I can't watch it right now. Like, so I missed one. I couldn't go back and rewatch it. And then they were just sending me like, they didn't send me the link one time and I couldn't log on from the website. So it was just the last week. I don't know what happened with their system, but I was having a really hard time. Also, they have some pretty intense like text message marketing during this time of the pandemic and whatnot. They would basically text me saying things like, "The market crash is coming. Secure your future with Shaw Academy."
No.
It was they were pretty much like fear mongering you into thinking like the market's going to crash and you need to get education now so that you can have a job. Like it was very odd. Mhm.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I was like, yeah, the market's gonna crash. You probably already lost your job, but you need to spend more
Exactly.
money to get this job. Like
Yeah.
what?
Secure your future. I can't tell you how many text messages I got telling me to secure my future. And it
So
would
I'm not
always
I mean, they say secure your future, but if you're not working right now, then I don't think you're really that secure. Even if you
Exactly.
had an online certification.
And this this certification will not get you a job. Like
Mm-mm.
it's not. It's nothing. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
helpful information if you don't know anything, and it's not wrong. Like they didn't say anything wrong, but they also didn't dive deep enough to give you real context about different situations. And again, that's fine. It's a 4-week course. I wasn't expecting my mind to be blown, but you cannot complete this course and charge somebody for services. You do not know enough and
No.
you will hurt somebody. Like you could do some damage if you think this information is enough.
Yikes. So that sounds like a fun time.
You know what I
But
mean. You know what I mean.
right. But honestly, like from the information that you're telling me, it seems like someone can easily take a statement that was said in class and completely twist it to match their own like goals
Mhm.
or methodology of doing things. So
Mhm.
that's just annoying to say the
Yeah.
least.
So again, it's helpful for somebody who maybe is thinking about going to school for nutrition and they want or they are frustrated with like the mixed information online and they want something a little bit more credible. Again, I compare it to some like one level above a random person on YouTube. Um, the teacher clearly did have an education and nothing was entirely like blatantly wrong. A little extreme, a little surface level, but again, just it's 4 weeks. So that's what you get in
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah. So unfortunately that's not the only certification out there too. That's the funny part. And you only tested out one. And there are other online certification programs that do annoy us. And I'm not gonna go into every single one of them because that's just gonna take up our entire day and we don't have that time. Or do we? Just
No, we are in
but
quarantine.
but
You guys
basically, hmm.
I said, do you guys have time?
Oh, I don't have time. I definitely don't. But basically, I noticed a lot of anything that is an online nutrition certification program, I realize originates from some sort of online personal training program. I mean, I don't think this is an accident. I mean, obviously, anybody that's interested in fitness is going to be interested in nutrition because even though they're two separate fields, they do intertwine with each other a lot. I mean, the same could be said for nutrition and medical information as well. Um, like, let's take, for example, NASM. I don't know if you guys know of this program. It's pretty popular. They do certify a lot of personal trainers, and you do see a lot of personal trainers that do get certified through this online program. And they do have a 12-week long program to become a certified nutrition coach, to say the least. And they even say at the bottom of their website that this nutrition certification is a non-accredited certification at the bottom. So what do we mean by non-accredited? Meaning it's not real.
Right.
But like I mean, a lot of schools and programs or whatnot go through an accreditation program, and the school that you and I went to at San Diego State was an accredited university for me to go into my dietetics program. Like I needed to go, like I couldn't just go to any silly willy program and
Right. Like,
go be a
for
dietitian.
example, you couldn't, use your Shaw Academy certificate to apply to a dietitian
Damn.
internship. Yeah, they're just not the same at
Right.
all.
Right. And on top of that, they actually say in order to maintain the certification, you must retake that online exam every two years. Now, they didn't tell me the pricing of that exam or if you had to go through the program or anything, but I would assume they would update that information every 2 years. So I guess that's good, but I'm not entirely sure either. Um, I mean, like for programs like these, I understand personal trainers are asked nutrition questions all the time. I know. Basically, a lot of my personal trainer friends tell me that they do get asked nutrition questions, but that they also don't stop from saying what they know about nutrition, which may or may not be accurate. Some personal trainers I know we went to school with. They were in, I think for first 2 to 3 years of college, we shared a lot of the same courses with them. But then I also know personal trainers that did an online certification, which is not the same program. Then again, I don't speak for that industry either, so I'm not going to go into that. And I mean, it's not the issue. It's them getting an online certification is not really the issue. Like, great that they have more information on nutrition. It's the fact that oftentimes they do tend to cross that ethical line. Let's say I have a couple patients that go and they have personal trainers at their gym, and they're bariatric, they're diabetic, they have heart disease and all this stuff. And my heart would hurt if I knew that they were asking that personal trainer questions about what they should do about their diet. And that's a big deal, in my opinion. So there's that. And then another popular one that's been popping up a lot is called Precision Nutrition Certification. And this has different levels too. And it says that the Precision Nutrition Level 1 certification is the world's most respected nutrition education program, beg to differ, taken by nearly 100,000 health and fitness professionals. Like I said, health and fitness, not nutrition. And it gives you the knowledge, systems, and tools you need to feel confident and qualified to coach nutrition with anyone. Like I said, basically indicates that you're probably going to cross the line. Here's
Right.
some information to back it up.
Anyone is a big population.
Right, exactly. So this program is a weird one because some dietitians have actually helped develop this program, which is weird. I mean, it's great that they're helping give some more accurate information. If fitness professionals were to give out said information, inevitably,
Mm-hmm.
it's just adding fuel to the fire. I don't know how else to describe it.
I just think it's such a fuzzy line, the line between the fitness industry and the dietetics industry or
Right,
profession. Dietetics isn't an industry really, it's a profession,
right.
where the fitness industry is an industry. It's a really fuzzy line, and
I think
I would
I
hope it was sports dietitians that went with this precision nutrition one, because it's mostly personal trainers that take this certification.
Yeah, it is mostly personal trainers. And like I said, I don't have a big issue. Well, not a big issue. I do have an issue, but
Not a big one.
um, I think I would feel more confident about said programs if they had some sort of disclaimer saying, if this person had such and such diseases, it is best advised that you do refer them to another healthcare professional or a dietitian or whatever, instead of just saying, here's how you can handle it, when it's really not in your scope of practice, you
And
know?
we also don't know that in the nitty-gritty of the curriculum, they don't say that. But
Mm-hmm.
in the marketing, when they say you'll have the systems, knowledge, and tools to feel confident and qualified to coach anyone, here's the thing. Just because you feel qualified and confident doesn't mean you should. Like, so the marketing is misleading as well.
Right,
And you know this, some of the audience might not know this, but I did take the curriculum for the ACE personal training.
right,
And in the nitty-gritty of that curriculum, they do go over scope of practice and how to handle when people ask you nutrition questions.
right,
So they do say what's allowed and what's not allowed. So we don't know exactly what precision nutrition says is allowed and what's not allowed.
right.
But in their marketing, they tell you that you'll feel confident and qualified. but feeling confident and qualified is not the same as being qualified. So I guess that's
we should have that as like on on like a t-shirt or something.
Right, feeling qualified is not the same as being qualified.
Literally. So we already kind of touched upon the biggest issues with certification about how we already have an issue. I mean, on the website, it makes a comparison between Shaw Academy and university. It literally says under Shaw Academy, globally certified, and under university, it says local. What the fuck does that mean?
It's so odd.
It doesn't mean anything.
Mm-mm.
Like, globally, by what? By the WHO organization? Because that's a big deal.
I don't know. Like,
which world leaders agreed to this? I mean, globally certified has to mean that.
It has to mean something, and there's absolutely no description on. But like, if you have a university degree, it's at a completely different caliber than this, and they just fluff it up so much. Like, what university is your degree only held locally?
Right.
Like, no.
Right.
I mean, if you get a degree in the States, it's definitely viewed, the same in all the states.
Right.
Going internationally, it's different. Not all degrees are viewed as the same, but it's definitely more than local. I'm telling you that.
I mean, like I've said before and she said before, I mean, it comes across to us a lot as a money grab. I mean, it's great if you're interested in nutrition, in which I would personally recommend programs like ACE and Position over a lot of other random ones like Shaw Academy. But keep in mind, there's also nutrition classes that are conducted in your local communities. If you're going to Google something, Google that.
Right, exactly.
I mean, I teach one in my local community here. So
right, and that would be much more credible than this.
No certification though.
Right, you don't get a paper at the end that you have to pay for, but sorry. The one thing that they did post on their website that I think that this might be like mildly helpful for is like, let's just say like you own a company or something and you want to provide like some wellness for your employees and you want them to take a nutrition course. This might be like okay for that. Or if you want them to take a marketing course so they can learn the basics for themselves to make themselves, a little bit more diverse, that might be okay, but not to charge anybody. Like, you cannot charge anybody from this information.
Yeah, Instagram tells me different.
Seriously. So that kind of wraps up our episode with Shaw Academy and my experience with it. Let us know if you are feeling inclined to take it after this episode. So we will close out with our social media shout out of the week. It goes to Be Free with D, and she is an RD2B. She posts a lot of mindfulness tips, nutrition info, and just all around meal inspiration and a really nice Instagram page. So thank you for your support. We see it. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. And that kind of closes out our episode 73. Please, if you have any questions, concerns, or anything, please reach out to us. If you want to send us something, that's totally fine too. I get stuff from you guys all the time. But either or, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Stay safe. Don't touch anybody. Don't let anybody touch you.
She covered it all.
Yeah, basically.
All right, guys, have a good one, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Keeping It Juicy podcast.
Your main squeeze in nutrition.
Don't forget to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for a brand new episode.
Also, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Keeping It Juicy Podcast.
We'd love to hear from you, so please leave us a review.
5 stars, no less.
On whatever platform you're listening to, or send us an email at keepingitjuicypodcast@gmail.com.
Or if you have any topics you'd like for us to touch upon, shoot us an email. Until next time, don't do anything that I wouldn't do.
This poses a risk of the transmission of these antibiotic-resistant bacteria from dogs to humans
What are you confused? What are you confused about?
Constituting? Constituting?
Constituting. Wow. Did we even go to college?
I don't know. I'm gonna start that sentence over.
Wait, hold on 1 second. I need to pull up the blinds because Nala started chewing on them yesterday, and I don't want her to start. The fuck are you doing? Here's a stick. Eat it. Get distracted. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
He's trying to get gas for his lawnmower. Okay.
So,
hey, fucking quit it. Fucking quit it. Boone! Oh my god. Stop. Nala was biting Boone, and then Nala like quieted down and sat down, and then Boone bit her butt. I don't fucking understand.
all right, well, we gotta keep going.
I know. Like Christine has said, I can't fucking.
We're almost done.
Okay.